Hey guys, Trev from the Struggling Artist Podcast, and I want to talk to you real quick about Struggling Artist Record Club. The Struggling Artist Record Club is a vinyl record subscription service where I hunt and curate the best punk and punk-adjacent music out there and mail their record to your door each and every month. Imagine finding your new favorite band from across the country without ever having to leave the house. It doesn't get much better than that. The excitement of discovering new music just got that much easier. As a member of the Struggling Artist Record Club, you are going to receive some of the best music you've ever heard from bands you may never even heard of. Whether you've been collecting records for years or just starting out, the Struggling Artist Record Club is designed specifically for you. And right now, all new members get a Struggling Artist Record Club exclusive along with the monthly selection. So head to StrugglingArtistRecordClub.com, pick a membership, and start building that collection today.
You're listening to the Struggling Artist Podcast.
People need to be entertained. They need the distraction.
With your host, Trev Allen.
I wish to God that somebody would do something to block out the voices in my head for 5 minutes.
Hey everybody, today our guest is Alex Kasznel and the board of directors out of Cincinnati, Ohio. I talked to them about how they got started, the instruments they play, their EP, their latest EP, Parachutes, which is on vinyl, and so much more. Stick around to the end of the episode to hear a song off of their EP, Parachutes. This is episode 267 of the Struggling Artist Podcast, Struggling with Alex Kasznel and the board of directors. All right. Now we're recording and everything. Hello, welcome to the Struggling Artist Podcast. Who is who here?
This is Heather.
Okay.
I'm Heather. I play the bass.
You can already said all my lines furnished.
There you go. You can just check right out.
Oh. So we have Heather, we have Alex, and we have Andrew, right? All right, cool. Awesome. And you guys are in Cincinnati?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. All right. So tell me about Cincinnati. I've only been there once, and I feel like it was a really bad experience because I was making a delivery for my business out there, and I was in like a sketchy, kind of like, I don't know if it was like a detox center or a hospital I was at, but it was inside. I can't judge the city off of how it was inside of a building.
That might not be like a representative example of the whole city.
yeah. I can't judge that.
And like, it was pretty brutal in there, but is the whole city like that?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is it like that? Honestly, all I really know about Cincinnati is WKP. What is it? What was the TV show? God, what is it?
WKRP.
Yeah, WKRP in Cincinnati. which was I'm old. I liked that show. I was a little kid when it came out, but I think that was the first time I ever looked at radio in romanticized what the radio was. You know what I mean? It was because of that show. Because I was a huge terrestrial radio fan for a long time. So tell me about Cincinnati, because that's all I know.
You guys are actually more from here than I am. You're the most from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Talk about Cincinnati. 150, 200 years old. Along the Ohio River. Lots of Germans. This is an educational podcast.
Yeah. So you guys are known for beer, right? Isn't beer a big thing in Cincinnati?
breweries.
Lots of breweries. Now, all right, maybe I should be a little more direct or not direct, but like more precise and what. Tell me about the music scene in Cincinnati. Tell me about the music community there.
It's a pretty diverse mix because we're right across the river from Kentucky, so there's a lot of like country and bluegrass players, and then there's also a lot of metal bands, and sort of everything else in between that. So we'll end up playing on shows where it's like us and a death metal band and then like an indie band, like all at the same venue. It's pretty odd, but it's cool because at a certain point you recognize that like when you're in a band that does what we do, you basically run a small moving company that plays music at your destination. So like you're all kind of doing the same thing anyway. And so everybody gets along really well and is really supportive of one another. So it's a cool place to start out as a band.
I love when a bill is like diverse, and I've seen some pretty crazy ones in my time. But sometimes, people want like, I don't know, some people don't like that. I just don't want to see the same band for 4 times in a row. You know what I mean? Like I want to see something different, Sure. Yeah. And I'll say this, like after checking out your music. So Heather, I don't know when you reached out to me. I did apologize about it going to the spam folder, right? Like, so I send emails all the time and they always go to people's spam folders. So I always check mine. And when I checked it and I saw that, I was like, oh no, I got to get back to them,
I send all their emails to spam too.
Yeah. So, but like, I don't know, like I checked out your guys' stuff then, or at least I checked out, I think Parachutes had just come out, I think. And then so like over the weekend, I kind of did a little more research. I was checking out everything you guys had, and you had a busy year last year, huh?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, overall, it was like you guys put out like 15 songs overall, I think 15 songs last year. But like separate projects, right? There was you did like a 2-shot single. Then you put out an LP, then you had the EP, and then just recently you guys did a single for a comp, right? For a compilation.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're gonna talk about it all since it's all relevant. It's all here right now, What? So you guys you're a new band, obviously, right? Or have you all been playing music for a long time though?
Individually we have, but the band itself, so the whole project kind of got started about 2 years ago when I started writing the songs for the band, and I did that alone for a couple of months, and I think it would have been February of 2022 when I first started reaching out to people to see if they wanted to join the band and do it for real with me. At that time, I had recorded the first single and the first album myself and just used that as kind of like a proof of concept to say like, this is what this band is going to be. And if you guys are interested in joining up in something like this, even if it's just a sort of a rotating cast of people playing the songs, I just wanted to get something like that started. And surprisingly, I found people that were like really into it, and it accelerated pretty quickly to just being a regular band. So now it's I'd been telling people I was in a band called the Board of Directors for quite a while before it actually existed. But it was the band itself has existed for a little over a year now, and the true form of it.
Nice. Now, what made you decide like you were gonna? Was this your first time doing a band yourself? Like, is this when you first started writing and everything, or?
No, I mean we'd all been like you'd been in a bunch of bands before this, and Heather had been as well, and we'd all kind of independently done other projects, and that just for one reason or another didn't pan out or had ended by the time that we started doing this. So it's not our first time doing it, but our first time doing it together for sure.
Yeah. And so what made you want to make the Board of Directors? What made you want to do this?
Yeah. At a certain point, I think I just reckoned with the fact that I had done music in different capacities throughout my whole life. And I think like a lot of people, you sort of get to that point where it's like, there's the things you like to do, and then there's the things that you can get a job doing. Mm-hmm. And so over time, you can sort of pursue the path of trying to make money doing the thing that you love to do, or you can make money to support the thing that you want to do. Mm-hmm. And so for a while, I'd gone that latter route and just had started working on becoming a scientist, which is what I do for sort of.
I was going to ask you if you were a biologist or a scientist of some sort. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a scientist, do medical device research. But I did that for a while, and you go to school for a really long time, and eventually, I was just 100% focused on that, and I lost the music, for a while, and I realized that I wasn't going to be able to be happy without that in my life, and I had to really commit to that in the way that I did all these other things that I was just doing for my career. And once I flipped that switch in my head and just put 100% into it, then it just changed everything.
It's weird how we can step away from like something we do creatively and like for years we could do. I mean, I stepped away from writing for almost a decade, and like I was trying to fill that void inside of me with all sorts of things that weren't working. You know what I mean? Work being one of the biggest ones. Like I overwork to the point, like, I mean, every relationship I've had has suffered. Every, like my health has suffered for it. Like my just relationships with my family, like romantic relationships. And so when I heard the song Company Man, it like really dug into me. It really did. And I was like, Jesus, like this sucks. And I've tried like for like I've gotten back into the swing of being creative and doing creative things, and somehow this podcast kind of fits in that realm. So it keeps me sane. It keeps me from going crazy, So so like listening to Everything's Important and Nothing Matters, like that. There's like a real coming of age kind of vibe throughout the whole thing about like just kind of. Maybe not necessarily regret, but like heave the warnings. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, that's definitely one of the bigger themes that kind of goes through that whole bunch of songs there for sure.
Now, with what you do, did you find yourself in that kind of groove for a while, where you just couldn't figure out why you were feeling a certain way or whatever, because you were working so much, and then it kind of clicked that it was the music thing that you were missing? Or
yeah, I think you kind of hit on this when you were talking about yourself. I think that there's like you feel a certain absence in your life when you don't have that thing that really fulfills you, and then you try to use other things to fill that space with, and it never quite works out. It's just sort of a distraction. And then I think that your whole disposition sort of changes once you start pursuing the thing that you actually care about the most. Like I didn't. All the friends that I have made in Cincinnati are people that I met through doing music, and that's how I met, obviously, the band and everybody else that I know. And, every good thing that's come my way from being here has been the result of just putting myself into the thing that I actually care about,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you guys feel that way too?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You make friends at work in your work life, but then you go home and you don't talk to them purposely. But in your creative endeavors, I personally I've met so many great people and formed real relationships and bonds with people. So yeah, absolutely, it's much more fulfilling to have a creative outlet than go to work.
Yeah, sure is. So does like the vibe of this stuff, does it fit the two of you? Heather and Andrew, like, did you guys find yourself in the monotony of life and just like missing something, or?
Yeah, for sure. I do work in a creative field, so I don't think I feel the drone of work as much. But just in the, everyday life, kind of getting caught up in, raising a family and losing track of the things that are important to me individually, because I didn't play music for a really long time until I joined this project. So yeah, it's been a game changer for sure.
Yeah. Now, how long was your hiatus from playing music?
At least 10 years.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it was like how I was with the writing and stuff like that. So yeah, it's but when it comes back, it just kind of, at first, I don't know. I am terrible with myself. Like I I just like I don't know. I like putting myself down. So for me, it was like, you're not going to get back to this. Like, you're not good at this. You're not good at this. You're never going to be Henry Miller. You know, you're never gonna you're never gonna be name any author. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, yeah, you're right. You know, I'm talking to myself. Now I'm talking to myself, and it's even worse, right? I'm agreeing with the voice in my head, and I'm doing it out loud. And I was like, but no, I just kind of had to like push through it. And then when I started doing it, I'm like, oh, okay, this, and then I kind of realized I didn't have to be Henry Miller. We already have one,
Right.
So, yeah. So, all right. So let's talk about your busy year that you guys had. Are you playing a lot of shows? Are you out there like are you hitting the shows a lot? Yeah.
Yeah, we've been playing a lot. It's interesting because I think like when you first start out, you're a no name band basically, and so it's kind of hard to get venues to take any interest in you because you're not worth any tickets to them. So, which is understandable. So, we started by doing like just DIY shows at the Legion Hall in Cincinnati in Mount Washington, and we just sort of cobbled together our little PA system. And I had made all these friends that played in bands or like had a solo act they would do, and I just call them up and say, "We're doing a show. We'll book the room. We'll just sell tickets at the door for $5 or whatever." And we would start doing shows that way and just making it ourselves. And at that point, that gave us a way to sort of cut our teeth as a live band and also to make connections in other places because we could bring bands from Columbus down to come and play in Cincinnati, and then they would bring us out to play in Columbus. And then you sort of start making connections with people in other cities. And then we get to the point now where I don't think we really ever have to seek out shows, at least in Cincinnati. And certainly to some extent, even in other cities, it's just other bands that we've worked with previously will hit us up or they're coming through on tour and they need local support. And then the thing will flip when we want to go and play in their city. We can just hit them back up and they'll hit us up with the show, And so it just sort of skyrocketed to the point where I think as a result of just not saying no to anything, we got really busy really quick.
Yeah. I'm starting to, well, I guess it's been, so we do a monthly podcast that's like part of the thing that the Struggling Artist does. And one of our members that were on it, he's not around anymore. He's still alive. I don't want to say he's not with us anymore, but he is still alive. I actually just got a text from him the other night, which was cool because I hadn't heard from him in a while. He was from, I forgot what part of Ohio he's from, but like, so he was bringing a lot of Ohio bands to us. And like, I've discovered so much music out of there. And I think how, Heather, I think in our emails, like you had said something about Yard Sign, right? Was that how you've discovered us? Because we mentioned Yard. So he had brought Yard Sign to an episode of one of those episodes. And I think it was just him and I on the episode because everyone else they all had to bail for whatever reason. So, but yeah, so like, I was like, oh, okay. Cause like I start thinking like when I see a band from Ohio, I'm like, all right, I'm trying to think of the bands like that I've like talked to now that are from Ohio or we've talked about. And yeah, so like that one, like recently, like Lame Ass Dads. Have you guys run into them?
Oh yeah,
those guys are a bunch of sweethearts. I had them on the podcast, and and like there's quite a bit of music in Ohio, and like it's growing. Well, maybe it's always been there, but like I don't know. Every time now, like I see a new band from, and it could be because like now I'm social media friends with people from Ohio. So like I'll see these bands pop up, but it seems like there's a pretty like solid movement of music going on out there, especially in like the punk ethos world. Now, maybe not exactly punk rock, but like that ethos that surrounds punk. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's good stuff out there, and yeah. So I want to ask, between Everything's Important and Nothing Matters and Parachute, like it almost like. Is there like a different feel to each one? Like, is there like a different, I don't want to say like tempo to it or something. I don't know. One like Parachute, the EP, it kind of sounds a little more like poppier than the other one. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest difference between them is that we played the Parachute songs were. So when I started the band, I had in my head sort of a roadmap of what the first 3 like full lengths were going to be, and I still have that. But when we started playing shows with this band, we were taking basically like open mic songs and then adapting them to a full band sort of environment, essentially. And when you're playing sort of acoustic guitar songs, there's a different type of arrangement. There's different type of songs that are a little bit longer and more lyrical. Some of them are kind of a little bit more somber, and it makes total sense for that environment. But then when you have two other people with you on stage and you're playing in sort of a more of an upbeat type of an environment, we had a lot of songs that were long, slow, sad songs basically, and wanted to have some stuff that would fill those other spots on the set that could just be more energetic and more fun and nonetheless like meaningful, but just in a different vein, and also that would highlight the bass and the drums, because that was something like you're playing by yourself on a guitar, you're not really writing like bass lines because there's no bass, and they're not like highlighting a drum beat because there's no one to play it. So that's why I think that the other parts of the band are so much more prominent on that EP, and that was something that I sort of wrote with the band in mind, as opposed to something that was sort of part of that 3-album plan that I had in my head from the very beginning. It was like added in between them, essentially.
Now, do you take that PhD like with your job, like how you map things out there? Like, is the thought process the same when you're doing music, or do you separate it? Like, I had someone else on recently with a PhD, and they separate it. Like, it's different paths. It works. Your brain works differently doing each one. So like, I don't know. I get into this kind of thing because like everything I do now, I don't have a PhD. I'm not very smart, but everything I do has my creative mind like working around it. Right. So it's like, I'm always like, whatever I do, like I have to map, and I'm kind of like, I got ADHD. I've got a bunch of those acronyms that mean things. And so like, so like everything I do, it runs through the same like process, I guess is what I'm saying. So like, do you separate that, or does it all work together?
That's interesting. I'm trying to think if there's a difference between the way I think about science and the way I think about music. There's definitely parallels. Like, I think that I tend to be a fairly analytical thinker, and maybe to a detriment sometimes, but I do. I think I don't tend to just sort of feel it and let things flow. I think everything in the songs is pretty thought out and pretty tight. I think just it tends to be the way that I write. So I think that if there's any parallel between them, it's that there's a lot of like everything's musically very in sync with one another, the guitar and the drums and the bass. And there's a lot of, it's not songs you could like sort of jam on, everything's sort of engineered to be a particular way. And so I guess that would probably be the only connection between them that I could say, aside from just like using science terminology in the lyrics sometimes. But
so, all right. So Heather, let me ask you, like, do you, cause you play the upright and you play like the bass guitar, right? So when you get a song, like how do you get the vibe on, or the feel on what bass you're going to use?
Oh, so I only play upright when we do an acoustic set.
Okay.
I guess the exception of that would be 16 on center.
Yeah, we had upright on that one.
Upright, but
okay.
Yeah, occasionally we'll be asked to play a show and our drummer's out of town, or for some other reason we do an acoustic set, and that's when I break out.
That's when you break out that one. Okay. Oh, cool.
I'm pretty into like you were saying, a punk rock ethos, a lot of DIY stuff. So a lot of smaller, unknown, if you will, bands. I think have done it right.
Yeah.
Where just like short songs that have a lot of impact, a lot of they convey a lot of energy and emotion, and then they stop and you move on instead of drawing things out. No offense. But yeah, a lot of stuff from like punk rock and alternative music. There's not a whole lot of like classical rock that really gets into my music at all anymore these days. But
yeah. So when I listen to you, because I try to be like, I don't know, I don't try to compare anything to anybody, like anyone to anybody else. But like I was like, I've never really heard this. Like, it's, what did I write? Hold on, let me see if I can read my own handwriting here. I wrote it. I was like, this is coming of age indie pop. like I don't know, power pop or something. I don't know how to, like, I just say it's all rock and roll to me. But like your song, so like I said, like the songs, you have songs like you were saying, like, the EP is a little bit shorter, a little faster than the LP. I like that. I think drawing contrast like that helps a lot, and like it shows that like you can write a song that's long, or you can write a song that's like short. And do you think is it easier to write a short song, or is it easier to write a long song? This is why I ask this. I'm terrible at writing like short stories. I can because I like to get into a little more like character development and detail, and you can't do that. So for 20 years I wrote like just screenplays. And like, or when I was writing just screenplays. To write a short film, like now the rules are out the window. But at the time, like there were really structured rules to how you would write. And writing a short film, I just couldn't do because I was too I did so much character development writing. Sure. So how does that is one easier than the other when it comes to writing songs, or?
I think it took practice. Like it's sort of in some sense, it's like a craft as much as it's an art. So like, I think when I started writing songs, I would kind of have this sense of like, everything should have like an intro and a verse and a chorus and a pre-chorus. And like the structures were kind of all over the place. Like, cause I tried not to get too tied down to like writing in a conventional way. And that allowed the songs to be fairly long because it was all based around like what I was trying to say lyrically. So like this part has to be exactly as long as it needs to be to fit all these words in it, kind of. And then I think I started learning how to be more concise and like figuring out like what are the key points that you can include in a song to let people fill in the rest of it on their own. Like it's almost, I think about there's this Tom Waits song called A Soldier's Things, and the whole song lyrically is just a list of things that are on sale at a swap meet. And through that, he paints this picture of basically like a widow who's selling off her husband's things after he's died at war. But he never actually says that. It's just laid out, and you sort of intuit that based off what he's saying. And it's a very short, very, very moving piece of music. But he doesn't have to like really spoon feed it to you. And so I think about that stuff a lot when I write now. And I think that the newer stuff that we've got that's yet to be released is considerably more in that vein. So I don't know that it's necessarily easier or harder to write a short or a long song. I think it's hard sometimes to discern what are the important details that need to be there. Like when does a long song need to be long, or when can it be cut down?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nice.
I think it's somewhat easier to write a short song because there's less to it, but it's a lot harder to write a good song. You can make a 20-minute Pink Floyd song and it's fantastic, or you can do a 2-minute Bad Religion song and it's fantastic as well. Mm-hmm. But there's no difference, I think, in effort between the shorter and longer ones.
Now, is the writing process now, is it like everyone gets in the room together now that you have a band, or?
So it's definitely changed a lot. So I think that now I don't feel as compelled to really sort of overdo each individual part of the song. Like I'll be the first to tell you I'm not very good at playing the drums or the bass. So when I write them, I try to keep those parts a lot more basic so that we can let Heather and Andrew sort of fill in their own personality into it as they work on, as the songs sort of grow and develop. But I'll make a demo that has guitar and bass and drums in it just to sort of convey what I'm thinking. And then we'll get together in the practice space and start working on it together. And it's always pretty much like anything goes as far as like what we want to change about the song. Certain parts get faster or slower, or we put it in a different key, or, whatever needs to happen to make it sound good, or something will just happen in the room that sounds better than the first idea I had. And we'll say, well, we'll just change it, And so it's definitely become a lot more collaborative. And as far as like the arrangements are concerned.
Now, in your field for work, are you work with a team, or are you individual when you work? And there's a reason why I'm asking this.
Yeah, I'm with a team usually.
You're with a team usually. Now, did you ever work for where you like? So I have I know someone that's got a PhD and they worked in academia forever, and like they were just doing their own thing. Like that's just kind of what they and they had to go off and do. So I was just like wondering, like because like with that. Sometimes it can be tough to, like, you have to kind of retrain yourself on how to work with a team again. With me, so 2020, By the time the pandemic came along, I was living out of right outside of Pittsburgh, and I was working completely alone for myself. And like the pandemic hit, and like I think that's kind of when I realized that was when I was having my my company man moment. Actually, it was during that, because I was like, I did everything in my power to like be alone, like work alone. Like, so I worked in the bar industry for over 20 years, in addition to having my business for 11 years in between all that. So like it was a good balance for me, because like my business, like I was alone and I could be alone, where like I'm not really a people person, but working in the bar industry I had to be. So like it was like it'd be really draining. Like my batteries would be drained. So having the other side, like my other business, like was good for me, because it kept me kind of like recharging for being, you know, I needed alone time. But by the time I got to Pittsburgh, I was just doing that. And that dog, hello. I love animals. What's the dog's name?
Say again?
What's the dog's name?
Oh, Ginger.
Hi, Ginger.
Band mascot from the interview.
That's awesome. Yeah. So like by the time 2020 hit, I was just like doing my business, and I was 500 miles away from the closest person I knew. So like I put myself in like in timeout, or like that was my walk through the desert kind of time. You know what I mean? I did a lot of writing then, which was good, but like it wasn't good for me as far as like, you know, we need people in the world, like in this world. Like we is the biggest. I'm the most loner. I'm such a loner, but like I was like, wow, I do need contact. You do need human contact.
Yeah, for sure.
And because of that work was when I was having some health issues too, because I couldn't rest. And I don't know, for all I know, I had COVID, and it was before they told us it was here. Who knows? But I was sick for like 3 or 4 months. And like it was scary. It was scary, and like that's when I kind of had this thought of like, do you want to die out here alone, or do you want to go back home? You know, do you want to go back home and kind of take it, like not take it easy, because I still work a lot, but like it's like, you know, now I can like take time for myself, you know, and do the things that so. But that's kind of like where I was. So when I started doing like the podcasts and stuff, that was my only way of like contact with people, was doing this podcast. And so then I got home, and then now I go to shows and stuff, and I'm like I'm back out there kind of interacting with people. And well, it's been a couple years now, but like to me, I'm still kind of like, I still feel like I'm like an outsider, you know? Because of that. So that's why I asked about like the you know, team like team building and teamwork at work, like working with a team as opposed to working alone. Because it's I think it's an interesting concept, and I know people, like I said, that have done both, and you know, but like it seems like you guys have a good thing. You guys, you know, the three of you have working here, and that's an awesome thing. So how tell me, how do you get on a compilation? How does that work? Because like I mean there's, you know, millions of comps out there that I have and that I've listened to, but like I never understand, like how do you get approached? Do you have to submit to it? Like how does that break that one down for me? But by the way, you guys do a great cover of "I'm Telling Tim." Like I was like, yeah, I like this a lot. Like, so
that one was the NoFX comp that just came out. It's called "I Heard They Broke Up," and it's on Coffin Curse Records. Put it out 2 months ago, I think. It just came out.
Yeah.
But that was Heather came up with that one. She sent me an email over the summer and said that there was this label out that was looking for bands to submit NoFX covers for it. And Heather's the resident NoFXologist in the band. So I asked her to give me a list of like 12 NoFX songs she thought would be good for the list. And we kind of had a discussion about, well, you know, there's going to be a couple that every band is going to want to do. So we'll try to avoid those. And then there's going to be the question of like, do we want it to be like a faithful cover, or do we want to kind of make our own version of it? And we figured it would be better to kind of retool it a little bit. And so I started listening through her short list of songs, and "I'm Telling Tim" jumped out at me as something where I could just hear like in my head, like a way to make it a little bit more our own. And so I put together a little demo of it, and I sent it to Heather, and she really liked it. And our other drummer had just quit at the time, so that was the only approval that was required. So we both liked it. So we worked on that for a while, and then Andrew joined the band, and he put his spin on the drums on that, and we recorded it back in January, and it came out pretty quick thereafter. That's the nice thing about not being involved in actually having to do the pressing or anything like that. Is we just sent it, and they're like, all right, we're done. The rest of the comp is really cool too. There's like 63 different bands on it, I think. Or something
I've seen people talk about it, and like bands that I think I might know that are in it, and I just like, I don't know, I just haven't really paid attention to it. But then like I didn't even realize it, like when it started I was like, wait, this is a No Effects song, I think, so yeah, so that was cool. That's awesome. So who put that together then? Or do you know who?
It was Mike Phillips at Coffin Curse Records put that one together.
Okay.
And we keep doing shows with bands that are on it. Like every bit of the show.
That's awesome.
Like, so we're on that too.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So speaking of pressing, you guys have a vinyl out, right?
We do, yeah.
Yeah, for Parachute, right? Is it one side?
It's one side, yeah. So it's we went down the rabbit hole of like different ways we could different ways we could press this, and it was like 7-inch, like the audio fidelity would have been kind of poor if we did it that way, if we had an A side and a B side. And we figured out that the best way to do it was a 12-inch LP or 12-inch EP with all the songs on one side, and side B is just nothing. So,
yeah. No, I've got ones that are like that. It's a 45 too, right? It's a 45.
45, yeah. It's a really weird setup, but you don't have to flip it over. You can listen to the whole thing once.
Right.
Just let it go.
And you get the best sound quality too out of 45 than you would out of 33. So, I personally, when I listen to a 45, I have to make sure I have a stack of them, because my record player, I have to manually change the belt, and it's the biggest pain in the ass to put it back to 33.
Oh, wow.
So, it is an expensive piece of equipment, and they just decided that was what they're like, hey, you get to change the belt like it was a cool thing, and it's not. It sucks. Sometimes I throw them in the. So what I'll do is I'll throw it's just a rubber, like like a little rubber belt thing. I'll throw it in the freezer, so it kind of constricts a little bit, so I can put it back on at 33. That's the game changer right there. Instead, I ended up buying they're like $1 a piece, so I bought like 10 of them because I was like, I'm not dealing with this. But then I was like, this is going to get expensive after a while. So I found out the freezer trick there works pretty good. But
wow, from listening to it, it's like, how bad do you really want to hear these songs?
Yeah. So yeah, I do. I make sure I have at least 6 records that are 45 that when I'm going to listen to. I'm like, all right, what's going to be a good way to arrange these tonight, and and have a listen. But so that's the first time you guys have done vinyl. Yeah, you didn't do the LP and vinyl.
Yeah, that was our first one. We've always been wanting to do it. I thought about doing a vinyl pressing of the first couple of things that we put out as well. The money and the logistics just weren't. It wouldn't have been feasible to do it right at the beginning. We may go back and put them out on some kind of a vinyl pressing at some point. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Do you like vinyl? Do you listen to vinyl or any of that too? Yeah.
Andrew doesn't.
Why not?
Bunch of Luddites. No, I never, except for when I was real young, growing up or whatever, I never had anything to do with vinyl, even though punk rock stuff is all vinyl in the 80s and 90s. So I was mostly into CDs when I started collecting. And a few years ago, I realized that I had these moving boxes of my CDs that never came out of the box. And so they were taped up in the corner for 2 or 3 moves. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I'm too old to keep moving all these damn CDs. So I bit the bullet and went all digital. And so
yeah. So I started collecting vinyl a couple years ago. Well, probably about 7 years ago now. And now I have way too many, and it sucks. So going back to that writer thing, I was very Kerouac for a long time, and I had nothing, and now I have nothing but a bunch of records. So I don't know how I'm going to move them all if I ever decided to get up and leave again. But yeah, so I don't know. I think vinyl's great. People are like, oh, it's coming back. I'm like, it never left. Much like what you said, Andrew, like punk rock never stopped pressing vinyl ever, you know, and like hip hop either. Hip hop and punk rock kind of stayed on that vinyl path for a very long time, and outside of like, you know, like big music stuff you can get on vinyl too, but like newer things weren't coming out. Like I always talk about new metal. New metal would not sound good on vinyl. The CD was like made for new metal, like that. Our new metal was made for CDs. Like they want that the crispest sound you could possibly get to like that digitalized sound, and yeah.
There are definitely bands that like wouldn't make sense for me on vinyl, like good bands even, but just like I couldn't imagine buying like a Yellow Card LP. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't make sense to me.
There's some out there that I'm like, I can't wait to hear this on vinyl. You know what I mean? Like there's just like it has like that just the something about it. You know? Yeah. Sorry. So people can get your vinyl. The vinyl for Parachute through your Bandcamp. Do you have a website too they can get it from, or is that the best way?
The place to go for that for sure.
All right, cool. And we have. Do you guys have anything coming up for shows like touring wise? Like, do you plan on moving west or east a little bit more, or?
We're going to be doing a Midwest tour in mid-July with Misunderstood, who's a good friends of ours from Richmond, Indiana. We'll be playing Lafayette, Indiana, Chicago, Green Bay, Milwaukee. I think we've got a couple others in like, what's the name? Fort Wayne, Detroit, and Grand Rapids, Michigan. And then we'll be Cincinnati on either end of it as well. So
nice.
It's about like a week and a half run we'll be doing with that, and then a bunch of other sort of weekends and, you know, one-offs in other cities. We'll be playing like Dayton and Columbus and Louisville, Lexington, just getting further and further out and expanding our radius that way.
That's awesome. Now, is this the first time you guys are doing like a bigger tour, like a week long tour, or?
Yeah, we've been doing sort of the first time we did like a weekend. Like of shows, I think was it Louisville? Would have been the first time. That was back in September of last year, and then we did Michigan for some reason has booked us a whole bunch of times, so we keep going back to Michigan a lot. So we were there back in January. So it's like usually like we play a lot of local shows and a lot of shows within like the 2-hour radius, and then like once every like 6 to 8 weeks we'll make a bigger run of it. Like not this weekend coming up, but the one after we'll be playing Louisville, and then Elkhart, Indiana, and then Hamtramck, Michigan, back to back, and then we come back home after that. So nice. We'll try to cram as much of it in as we can in one trip, and then make it back to Cincinnati in one piece.
That's awesome. Where can people find you on social media?
We're on all of them, I think, except Threads. I don't know what Threads is, but they keep trying to get me to join Threads. I'm like, what even is this? It's like,
you know, I'll be on Instagram and I'll see something and I'm like, what is that? And then it's a Threads thing, and you like push on it to try to get to like what it is, and it brings me to a whole new app, and I'm like, what are you doing? What is this?
Yeah. They're like, I get notifications. They'll be like, oh yeah, all these people want to follow you on Threads. I'm like, they definitely don't. Like, there's no way.
They're not clamoring.
No. Yeah, so we're not on that, but all the other ones you can look us up if you punch our name in, you'll find us.
Sure. All right, cool. And what do you guys suggest for, like, if people wanted to reach out to book you? Is there email address, or like just find you on social media?
Social media is probably the easiest way. I mean, we have an email address too, but my name's really hard to spell. So just probably just go ahead and hit us up on Instagram or Facebook, and we're pretty responsive on all of that.
Tell me how to phonetically say your last name.
Kasznel.
Okay, that's exactly how I thought it would be. Okay, so
Yeah.
I have a thing about names, because everyone always calls me like Trevor or Travis, and it's like, no, it's just Trev. So I want to make sure I always nail the name. So, all right, well, I appreciate you all coming on and talking with me. Do you have anything coming up musically? Like is there another album or anything? Any releases coming up?
Yeah, what is the thing? We have the split. That's right. We had a couple things going at once. I was trying to remember which one was going to be released first. We're doing a split with another band from Cincinnati called Maestro Murder, and it's going to be one of those deals where we cover one of their songs, they cover one of our songs, and then we each have a new original we're contributing, and then at the end of it, there's going to be a song that we wrote together, and we'll all be playing on it. So
That's
it's going to be
awesome.
really cool. And that'll be coming out, I think, this summer. But we're not have a release date yet, but it'll be within the next couple of weeks.
Are you guys going to press that too, or no? That's going to be digital.
We're going to do CDs for this one, and then there may be vinyl at some point in the future, but we want to get it out sooner than later. So, but it'll definitely be digital and streaming and CDs, and then maybe we'll do a pressing of it at some point, like a limited, like 250 copies or something like that.
Have you been writing more now? Like, all right, let's. I mean, we released a bunch of stuff in 2023. Was 2024? Are you guys? Is it equally? You're going to have a lot of stuff coming out towards the end of the year, or are you going to wait till 2025? And then
we've got stuff planned pretty far out.
If he's breathing, he's writing.
Well, I had a lot of stuff written before we even like started the band. So like I'd always heard that like there's that saying like, you have your whole life to write your first record and you have like a month to write your second.
Yeah.
So I just wrote like several albums worth of stuff like from the jump so that we would never really have that problem, and we haven't. So like we just as we go, it just sort of allows us to. We never are in a situation where we're like strapped for material. So there's always more. We've got another EP coming soon. We got the split. Then there's another full length that we've been working on for a while after that. So I think we've got releases pretty consistently planned for like the next couple of years. So
short songs too.
And there's that'll be so we'll be busy. There'll be a lot of new music coming out from us every couple of months.
Awesome. Well, if you all ever find yourselves in the Northeast, particularly in New England, let me know. I'd love to come out and check out a show.
Yeah,
Cool.
Awesome.
Love to have you.
All right, thanks for coming on.
All right, thanks for having us.
Thanks.
It's nice to meet you.
All right, and that's the show. I want to thank Alex Kasznel on the board of directors for being today's guest on the Struggling Artist Podcast. In the show notes, you will find links to their Bandcamp and social media. Check them out and give them a follow. Thank you to Chris Chavez for producing the Struggling Artist Podcast. Thank you to State Line Records for producing a sponsorship for the Struggling Artist Podcast. And thank you to the band Losers Circle for allowing us to use their song Great Illusion of Time off of their album Took Long Enough. You can find a link to that record if you want to buy it. The whole thing's a banger. On our website, in our link tree, usually in the show notes too. It's out there. We put it out there. If you can't find it, then hit me up and I will send you a link personally. Thank you to everybody over at Patreon supporting us. If you want to see what's going on over there, head to patreon.com. You know what? I just learned that it's a / not a backslash. So I guess it's / podcast TSA. I am so bad. Anyway, you can go to our website, thestrugglingartistpodcast.com, and follow a link to our Patreon. If you've been I could just see people every episode trying to plug that address into their that's why our Patreon isn't huge, because I've been giving you all the wrong address. So now prove me right and go and sign up. I think a lot of the extra shows we do start around the $3 mark. There's a $5 mark will get you something else, and I can't think of what else it gets you off the top of my head. But yeah, and you get more than just that. Like I'm saying, for like the content that gets put on there though. And then, there's a $2 mark that gets you early access. So if you want all that stuff all together, wrapped up together, just hit the $5 button. That's what you want over there at patreon.com /podcast TSA. Thank you everyone who listens and leaves comments. I just saw we had a Spotify like comment, or I guess you can do those. I don't quite know how that works, but anyway, and the person was talking about the episode of Flat 56, and they said it was the first time listening, and they loved the band, and they were, they thanks, I guess. Thank you for leaving that comment. If you want to go one step further and let us know how you're doing, or how we're doing, I want to know how you're doing too, but how we're doing, you can always email Trev at thestrugglingartistpodcast.com. There might be a form on the website to fill out if you don't want to go that route, or you could always text us on the Struggling Artist Hotline, 774-570-1552. We will not text you back unless you ask, and we won't sell your information or any of that shit. Also, if you want to go one step further and leave us a voicemail, I promise, unless you tell me otherwise, we will play it on the podcast. Same number. If you call 774-570-1552, you can leave us a message on the Struggling Artist Hotline. Again, 774-570-1552. All right, it's time to get out of here with a song. Alex, Kasznel, and the board of directors, all of them, the entire board of directors over there, told us to play a song. And this is off of their latest EP, which is called Parachutes. The song is called Prescription Cigarettes. Until next week, take care of yourselves. We'll talk to you then.
They're waging wars in other countries, and you're powerless to stop it, but you can't help feeling guilty. Blink your eyes, you almost missed it. Subjugation of a group you didn't even know existed. There's a stack of books you haven't read on a shelf that sits beside your bed, so you can dream about your ignorance tonight. You got this song stuck in your head. It goes clap your hands over your mouth. You got something to say and you're afraid to let it out. You wanna scream so loud your brain goes deaf, so you can't hear the voices in your head saying stay on top of everything at once. Could keep track of each passing year by the acronyms and sloganeers, like a constant ringing in your ears. Enough, enough.